pictures around. It was about patriotism. It was about trying to get people excited about what could happen in this country. This president is trying to raise money by putting tariffs on our adversaries and allies alike in ways that don't make any sense. There is
the
no,
FDR administration oversaw some of the largest tariffs in American history.
Nothing
and
in
FDR
common.
spent most of his administration ripping on what he called the malefactors of great wealth.
You know, we're still living off of a lot of the public works of that administration. I wish we were building highways.
So then why are you against what Trump is doing? Because he's doing a much lesser version of what FDR is.
No, Trump has, again, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Let me give you an example.
So he's an incompetent.
Shipbuilding.
But if you're incompetent, it would be better.
Well, you're just, this is rhetoric, but shipbuilding is a great.
When you're talking about, hold on, when you're talking about the government paying, you're talking about Social Security, which is people's money.
Well, it is not the money you paid in.
It's the system that they pay into.
Well, no,
every paycheck stub.
Yes, but believe me, I pay a lot.
I know, I pay into Social Security. I don't know about you.
I promise you, the amount that people are taking out is not the amount that is going in, which is why we are going bankrupt.
Okay, but it's not the government just handing out a blank check.
No, it's the government borrowing money to pay. Well, you pay in X dollars, and then you get multiple times X dollars when you retire. That is how the system works. It is not a lockbox. This is what Al Gore was arguing about in 2000.
What's going on, everyone? Social Kenny here today. Ben Shapiro decided to be on CNN. Who would have thought I would ever say those words? Imagine that. That's how you know the right, the conservatives are kind of gaining cultural ground, is the fact that CNN, with all their liberal audiences, because I saw tweets online, liberal audiences going, see, CNN's barometer is moving more towards the right. They have Ben Shapiro on CNN. But they ignore that they got Anna Kasparian on CNN too. Doesn't make it make sense. But because they platform Ben Shapiro, all of a sudden lefties online, progressives online are now trying to claim that CNN is a biased news network towards the right. Yes, you're hearing that somewhere right now. Somewhere a liberal right now is angry that he turned on CNBC and he saw Ben Shapiro talking in Squawk Box or some business news channel, and now they're mad and they're saying, oh, this is politicized because someone who politics you don't like appeared on a business show. Make sense. Making sense. But this is the intolerant left. And I wanted to kind of do an example of how a lot of the people that Abby Phillips bring on these shows, like some people think excited. So I want to focus on this lady here, right? Her name is Rana. I'm not going to butcher her last name. I'll spare her that. She's talking about, she melts down over the fact that Ben Shapiro points out that FDR imposed more tariffs than Trump. And her job is for the Financial Times, and her job is global business columnist and associate editor. Now, when I did my research on this lady, she has a bachelor's degree in arts in English literature. So she knows how to write a story, but does that breeds like you understand business? Now, you could, have a degree in something unrelated to the job you're working at, fine. But the way she, the point she made, to me, it was like, you're just trying to craft a story. You're just trying to sell me a story. And you're going to see this a lot. I mean, Ben Shapiro brings a different dynamic because he likes to focus on factual data. I like factual data. And as everyone knows, I'm America first. Yes, I disagree with some of the stances on this clip I'm about to show you. But to make the argument that us sending money to Israel or foreign adversaries is costing us more money than Social Security, based on the facts, is just a lie. But, this is the kind of trouble that liberals get themselves into when you argue stuff on pragmatic basis. This is not something that a lot of people like to hear, that if we want to do something about our national debt, we have to do something about Social Security. No one likes to have that conversation. Now, we can have a slow burn conversation. Some of the parts, I want to reform Social Security. I'm open to reform Social Security. I believe that the Social Security money that you're taking, right, it should act like your 401k. They deduct it out of your paycheck, and you got a government account where you can manage it. You manage your own retirement money, right? But for some reason, people don't like that approach, privatizing Social Security. Some reason people don't like it. But I believe that it is more, fair than what we're doing right now, which Ben Shapiro will point out later in this video. But for now, I want to play this clip of them arguing about spending money. What costs us more money, sending foreign cash or Social Security? Let's take a look.
Our national debt shot up significantly after 9/11, after we started invading countries in the Middle East.
You should look at a chart of
now we're at
30.
In 2008, we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Israel, on Ukraine. I mean, honestly, these foreign conflicts have a lot more to do with our national debt as
hell they
opposed
do
to
by the
us
numbers. That
paying
is just
into
untrue.
the Social
You
Security
think
system.
Israel is a bigger portion of our budget than Social Security, Medicare,
I think we
Medicaid?
spend way too much money
I'm just asking
on
as a
military
mathematical
aid for
numbers
foreign
thing.
countries.
You think
Absolute-
Israel is more
Do
than
you
Social
think
Security?
that Social Security is more of an issue compared to how much money we just shell out for conflicts abroad?
As a matter of
The truth of the
expenditures and
matter is
math?
that
Yes.
both entitlements and defense.
On principle, I agree with Anna Consparian. I believe as an American nation, we shouldn't be shelling out money to foreign countries for alliances and nothing. Maybe we get some benefit out of it. And, you know, a lot of people, pro-Israel people, they justify that expenditure by, hey, they share intelligence with us. But, I mean, we don't have to pay billions of dollars for people to share intelligence with us, right? I understand a couple mil, but a bill? Really? A billy? A billy for some information? And we're still the backbone of their defense and them defending themselves, but we gotta pay a billy for information. I don't justify that cost, but that's purely from like a political standpoint about like politics, like policy. That's where I disagree with Ben on, and that's where I disagree with most people. I'm not here with the Jew hate, trying to make every conspiratorial thing around what Jews do, and I don't give a damn honestly what Jews do, but I do care what my government does, and I don't like what my government is funding another government for something I believe is not warrant the money. That's just me. But on the facts, no, I disagree with Anna Kasparian because Social Security is a constant cost that we have here in the United States of America, right? And this is what happens when you get caught unprepared. And these are the kind of conversations when you get left and right in the same room and you get them focused on talking about the issues, not trying to slander each other, not to try to score political optics and games. You just discuss the approaches and the facts. Ben Shapiro brings us a interesting point about Social Security. And one thing I want to point out, why I'm so in favor of privatizing Social Security is the fact that when you pay into Social Security, when you die, what happens to the money you contributed to? You can't pass it on to anyone else. That's just money the government just gets to keep. And this is what Ben Shapiro brought out, is that we borrow against ourselves. Whatever money you put in is not the same amount of money you're pulling out. You're pulling out way more money because think about it. Inflation from today, when you go forward 20 years, what your buying power was in 2025 is not going to be the same buying power you had in 2045. So essentially, you losing money. This is why I say privatizing Social Security is one reform I'm in favor of. Hey, if we have to pay the Social Security and it's government, okay, government holds an account for you and we get interest on that instead of paying into the system. And the fact that we have a population decline, and this is the funny part about all these liberals who complain about, oh, we don't need kids, we don't need to have more kids, we're having too much kids. We don't have enough kids in the future where they'll be able to fund Social Security for the current retirees. This is why millennials, Gen Z, we're not expecting to get any Social Security. This is why I'm managing my own retirement accounts. And this is kind of I think the angle that Ben Shapiro is going with. And to a degree, I agree with Ben Shapiro. I think that retiring at 65 at this point in age, and I'm speaking as a millennial, I can't speak for boomers, I can't speak for Gen X, but I don't see myself retiring at 65 years old, honestly, because six figures don't stretch the same way it used to be. You got a lot of, and don't get mad at me, I'm telling you the truth, because this is reality. I'm not trying to sell you a fantasy. This is reality. People who are retiring today, after a couple years, they're forced back into the workforce because their retirement, the amount of money they save for retirement is not enough for them to fully retire at the level that they want to because of inflation, cost of living rises. And this is what I'm highlighting here. And this is the pragmatic result. I think a lot of people don't like to hear when conservatives start talking about, yeah, we got to do something about it. Now, I'm on the reform camp. Hey, we don't have to cut Social Security, but we have to make it more self-sustainable because it's not self-sustainable at its current juncture right now. But enough of me rambling, enough of me giving my own thoughts. Let's get into the video where you guys came here to see. Let's take a look.
Which brings us back to the age-old debate. When should you retire? Ben, you're going to be kicking at 69 years old doing this thing?
I mean, the life expectancy, if you make it to 65 and you're a dude, is now 83. So the real question that I was asking is, when should the government pay you to retire, which is a sort of a different question than when should you retire. When you should retire is sort of a personal question, and also it depends on your definition of retirement. I don't think that, if your goal is to be 65 and sitting on a beach for the rest of your life doing nothing, that the social science tends to say that's not very good for you. You actually should be involved in your community and get involved and still have a side job and all the rest of that. But if we really believe that we can't raise the retirement age and we're never going to change that, we will go bankrupt. And all the talk about cutting at the margins, you know, whatever Doge is doing, that's not going to touch the real driver of the systemic debt in the United States. Women are
now he's borrowing an argument that Democrats always constantly bring up, and it's a valid argument. Hey, Doge can't really make cuts, like substantial cuts like they want, unless they touch Social Security. And I agree. I agree to make Social Security more efficient. And I believe one of the ways you make Social Security more efficient is if you privatize it, if you allow the citizens themselves to manage their retirement account. I have 2 retirement accounts I essentially manage. I have a 401k, which is tied to my employer, where they do a 5% match. The decisions I make today, future Kenny will thank him for, right? Because I try to max out my contributions to max whatever my employer will match me. 5% of my salary, 5% of my salary goes in that 401k, not a penny more, right? With my Roth IRA, I have an individual retirement account. I'm maxing that out. I pay the taxes up front, and the growth is tax-free. Those are the 2 retirement accounts I have currently right now. But these are some of the examples of how millennials is expected, Gen Z, you're expected to manage your own retirement. So in my head, it makes sense that the Social Security should be managed by me. This is just how I think, right? So if something happens to me, God forbid, you know, I leave before my supposed time, I can pass on my Social Security account to my children, right? And I think it'll give more of a retirement access to people if we privatize this thing. Now, everyone's going to make arguments about the current system, but the current system is not sustainable. And this is the type of fantastical thinking that Democrats love to sell the public. They love to sell the public, oh my God, no, we can keep it. We don't have to raise the age of retirement. But then inflation keeps getting worse. And then our debt keeps rising. And then when it's too late, that's when everyone will go, oh, we should have done it. We should have been practical. Like it happens with your own finances. What happens if you have a level of spending that your income can't sustain? You're going to go into debt, and eventually you'll have to file bankruptcy. And this is what we're doing to the United States of America. But then the same people will complain about debt. Oh, I don't want to touch no national debt. Look, Donald Trump's growing the national debt because it's not politically fun or popular to make any type of negative or critical comments of the current status of Social Security. I don't care. I'm a millennial. If you're a millennial, Gen Z, you don't care about Social Security. If you're Gen X, an older millennial, maybe baby boomers, you like Social Security. That's where I see the divide. The political divide is not left versus right. It's generational divide, because millennials know we ain't gonna touch Social Security because we're not producing enough people, enough children to actually retire us without going into devastating debt with the government. I'm sorry. This is the reality. This is why there's such a disconnect across the generations when baby boomers are crying about Social Security and they deserve their Social Security, and they don't want the age of retirement to increase because then that means they got to work longer. I understand that. I understand all that personal interest, but we've been kicking the can down the road for too long. And every type of reform attempt at Social Security, it gets shot down, or you let the Democrats fearmonger you into making, Republicans are trying to take away Social Security. Most Republicans are in favor of reforming Social Security. That's my honest opinion, but I digress. I rambled too long. Let the video play out.
To 85 if you make it to 65, men are looking to 83 if you make it to 65. That's 20 years on the public dime.
When you're talking about the government paying, you're talking about Social Security, yes, which is people's money.
Well, it is not the money you paid in.
It's the system that they pay into.
Well, no,
you're never paycheck stub.
If you look at the amount of people who pay taxes, and this is not a dig at anybody, but the bottom 50% of Americans don't pay little to nothing in taxes. Yet, they're going to pull out the most out of taxes. The people who contribute the most into Social Security, they pull out the least in a way. Or we all got an equal distribution of how much money we're allowed to pull out from Social Security. Is that a fair system? I'm asking a simple question. If you knew that half of Americans under a certain amount of money, right? I think that's under $36,000 a year. They only pay about 10%. They're only responsible for 10% of the tax revenue that goes into the government. Yet they can pull out the same amount of money you pull out if you're in a higher tax bracket than $36,000. To me, that seems unfair. I'm just saying. That's why I'm saying we need a retirement account like kind of thing. But a lot of people are not going to like that because the current money they're making ain't gonna be the same as if we kept it as a public system that we have right now. But if we keep it at the public system that we have right now, eventually we're heading to Kumbaya America, Kumbaya finances. But hey, there's one thing about politics. It exposes people's true political interest themselves. Usually goes back to yourselves. And the best you can do in politics is align as much self-interest to a common goal as possible. That's the game I'm playing. But I digress. Let's continue with the video.
Yes, but believe me, I pay a lot in my Social Security.
Social Security. I don't know about
I promise you, the amount that people are taking out is not the amount that is going in, which is why we are going bankrupt.
Okay, but it's not the government just handing out a blank check.
No, it's the government borrowing money to pay. Well, you pay in X dollars, and then you get multiple times X dollars when you retire. That is how the system works. It is not a lockbox. This is what Al Gore was arguing about in 2000.
The other part of this, though, is at 65, right? I mean, yeah, you might be in great health, but many people are working hard jobs. They're on their feet.
It depends on what job.
I'm not saying if you're working backbreaking labor and your leg is falling off that you should be.
By the way, I just totally reject what you just said about how we're going bankrupt due to Social Security. Really, you don't think like the trillions of dollars we've spent on wars in the Middle East might have something?
Yeah, and then the trillions of dollars that we spend on Social Security also adds to the fact. Yes, and maybe we can stretch Social Security out maybe a couple more years if we stop spending money on foreign aid, foreign wars, foreign alliances outside of our country. If we even cut out NATO, I think we can save ourselves another couple more years. But eventually, it's like you're gonna have to touch that Social Security. You got to do something about that because as of right now, the more there's less people contributing to Social Security that there are pulling out. Because look at baby boomers. Baby boomers are going to retire. Gen Xers are starting to retire, right? They're pulling way more. There's way more of them than millennials, Gen Z, right? Gen Z's starting to go into the workforce, right? They're climbing the corporate ladder right now. They're starting to pay taxes, but there's not enough of them. I saw a stat somewhere, and this is the funny thing. 28% of 28% of Gen Z was aborted. I bet y'all could use it right now if people who wants to retire. And this is what I'm saying. People in this country, and this is, I'm talking about like to the no kids crowd, and no one's forcing you guys to have kids, but there's a reason why there was a social stigma on people who didn't want kids. Because it's seen almost like a selfishness. In a way, it is, but that's your right to be. It's your right to be selfish. It's your right to do what you believe is right for yourself. But you can't escape the consequences of your decisions. Your decisions do not happen in a vacuum, in isolation. And this is the problem with liberalism. And I think I want to put a clip here of Bill Maher debating a conservative about how liberalism helped destroy the family.
I know you think liberals want to destroy the family.
Liberals want no, I don't think they want to destroy the family. I think they have destroyed the family.
Oh, that's okay.
But they haven't destroyed my family.
But they didn't really do it on purpose. That's the
wait a second. What you're saying is, I didn't know it was loaded, right?
Yes.
That's what Lee Harvey Oswald could have said, right?
Okay, but they actually, liberals actually think they're doing good. I know a lot of times it's really just about making them feel good, which is what's so obnoxious when they do that. But they're not actually trying to.
Yes, but what we understand as dramatists is that nobody ever did something for a bad reason.
Yeah, and I think that is some of the obnoxious kind of sides of liberalism is that they love to do things that make them feel good. Oh, look, I'm not contributing to carbon emissions. I don't want to birth children into a world that's going to end in 10 years because of climate change, right? This is what I'm talking about, right? But then you're gonna get mad. Oh yeah, we're not generating enough revenue for Social Security to substantiate or sustain the amount of spending we're doing on Social Security because we're not producing enough people. And liberals are contributing to that. Liberalism contributed to that, right? And then you're getting mad at the conservatives. They're saying, yeah, we need to tighten the belt. We might have to put an axe on Social Security or reform it to make it more efficient and more self-sustaining and put it more in your hands to determine your retirement, not on the government, right? People don't like to hear that, especially if you're older. You don't like to hear that. I paid into the system for years. Yeah, and the money you're pulling in has less buying power than it did when you put your money in it in the beginning. And this is the argument I'm talking about. Government spending, it always comes back to bite you. Always. Government spending is responsible for inflation. I told you that now. So if we keep sustaining a system that we have to generate or we have to borrow more money than we're actually bringing in, we always going to increase inflation. Inflation will always be a problem, right? That's the problem with government spending. To me, government spending has more of a correlation to our inflation rate than anything else we could do as a country. But I digress. Let's continue. Let's finish up this video.
Our national debt, our national debt shot up significantly after 9/11, after we started invading countries in the Middle East.
You should look at a chart.
Now we're at 30.
In 2008,
we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Israel, on Ukraine. I mean, honestly, these foreign conflicts have a lot more to do with our national debt as opposed to us paying into Social Security.
You think Israel is a bigger portion of our budget than Social Security, Medicare,
I think we
Medicaid?
spend way too much money on military aid for foreign countries.
You think Israel is more
than Social Security? Do you think that Social Security is more of an issue compared to how much money we just shell out for conflicts abroad?
As a matter of expenditures and math,
yes. Both entitlements and defense are a big issue. I actually think Ben has a point here. I think that the nature of aging has changed. I think retirement is evolving. I mean, you know, my husband is 71 years old. He's still writing books. I'm 55. I hope to work for another 15 years at least. But I do think it depends on the kind of job you do.
And this is why it's important to take, you know, your finances and your retirement in your own hands. Because if you're relying on these people, right, and the day you didn't create the account, you don't really have control over it, right? And you don't really have control of Social Security. And this is one of the reasons why, like, many millennials, we have this mindset that no, we don't expect to get anything out of Social Security, right? And the fact that, you know, the budget, right? They want to argue the budget, but if you see it on a graph, how much money, like let's look at the fiscal year 2025. Social Security is responsible for 22% of the amount of money spent in our government, and the national defense is at 13%. Now, there's other things we can cut, like education, I believe. Oh, education, education only makes up 3%. So even when I'm doing that, it's not really going to make much of a debt. National defense, sure, I'm all for it. I mean, the Pentagon failed their audit 7 times. We need to cut that out. Health, a lot of the health industries, and especially these government institutions like the NIH, they fund left-wing ideology and all this stuff. And look at the interest. Interest is the second highest expense we have as our public tax dollars. There's a lot of room to make things efficient, but we have to touch Social Security. We have to, for our sustainable future, right? Because if the average age of a person living is 83 years old, that's a man, right? Women, it's like 85, I believe. That's 20 years more than was initially expected for Social Security to support. How are you going to make up that extra income unless we all increase taxes across the board? Everybody's paying half their money to the government. Maybe that will sustain it, not just millionaires and billionaires, but everybody get a 50% cut. Hey, you got to contribute half of what you make to the government. Maybe it'll be sustainable, maybe. But you know, government, they're always going to find a way to spend more. And I think this is kind of the age-old debates that, you know, everyone has a point here. It's just about what are we willing to struggle with? Are we willing to struggle for an unsustainable future or a frugal present for a sustainable future? You have to pick your struggle, because there's no perfect solutions, only trade-offs. Let me know your thoughts and perspectives in the comments section below. What you feel is the best approach to reforming Social Security? Do we raise the age of retirement? I hear a lot of people going, boo, or we reform. And there's different ways to reform Social Security. Let's hear it in the comment section below. Let me hear your thoughts and opinions on it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.